Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys had a fantastic 4th of July weekend. I did a lot of work outside. I'm actually exhausted right now. I was doing the resurfacing. Well, not really resurfacing. I redid my deck. Basically pulled off all the old boards, put on composite decking. Man, I got muscles hurting where I didn't know I had muscles hurting. But it was nice. It was a nice weekend. It was hot as heck. I sweat like crazy, but nonetheless, saving some money on doing that. I can buy more stocks doing it that way. But obviously, I hope you guys had a great weekend. Bitcoin finished out the week at a new all-time high for the close, which was nice to see. We got some good news also on the miners. The miners are performing Bitcoin here in the last week. We'll take a look at that. We'll also talk about a couple stories that we have here about BTC and exchanges. We'll also talk about Elon Musk and his new party that he's starting, and they're going to be probably going in a little heavy on Bitcoin there, which is nice. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get into your guys' Q&A. And we're still waiting on a bunch of miners to report. We've only had 3 miners reported so far for their June production update as it is. All right, so let's get into it here. But as always, not financial advice, for only. Do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's get into what's going on here with Bitcoin right now as it is, how it closed on the week. Where are the miners right now? Trading pre-hours as well. We'll take a look at that. Obviously, they're not trading here during Sundays, but they are pre-trading at least. So we'll see what's going on there. All right. So here's BTC right now. BTC was up and down today, but it finished out in the green, which was nice. At first, during the day, I thought, oh man, we're not going to get a new all-time high in Bitcoin. Not a new all-time high, but a new all-time high weekly close on Bitcoin, and we did actually. So I was surprised by that, based on what was just happening on during the day. But nonetheless, Bitcoin closed today at 109,217. This is the new high. The last high was at $109,048. So that's looking pretty good here. We had a great week also last week where we were up, the prior week we were up 7.32%, but on this week we were only up 0.77% on Bitcoin here for the daily. Bitcoin finished out being up just a little bit, being up 0.9%. So it wasn't too bad there as it is. Bitcoin right now is still looking pretty good here. Still got plenty of room to run here, looks like, on the daily at least. On the weekly as well, we can see that. We got plenty of room to run here, going up higher here potentially, which could lead us to 135,000, 150,000 before we need a little pullback, a little correction there, but we'll see where that gets us. So that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. We'll see how the miners do tomorrow. Right now they're doing pretty good here. BitDeer is up just a little bit, 0.58% in the pre-hours. We got Bitfarms actually being up almost 5% there, looking pretty good here. It's starting to get some notice there. Maybe Riot's not selling as much Bitcoin there, or shares in them. Cypher's up just a little bit, 2.64%. We got Cleanspark being up 2.2% here, a little bit more, so that's nice to see. CORZ Scientific is actually down just a little bit, 0.72%. We got Hive Digital being up 1.3%. Hut 8 being up now 4.3%, so that's kind of interesting there. And then we got IREN being up another 2.14%. That one's over $17 right now. Mara's up 1.64%. Riot up just a little bit, 0.49, and TeraWolf is actually down 3.61 on the pre-hours here. And Bit Digital, what the heck is going on with that one? That thing is up 8%, 10% on the pre-hours here. So that one is definitely bouncing off from where it started. What was it, just last week or the week before, where it dipped quite a bit, and it's corrected ever since then. It's actually done pretty good here. So maybe the move going to Ethereum holding company is the right move, and moving out white fiber there as well into a separate company might be the right move for them here. So stock's looking pretty good here recently, which is nice to see here. Let's take a look at the network hash rate really quick on Bitcoin here. This is on the 30-day average. We're coming back up here to 873 exahash. We got to a low of 866 exahash on the 30-day average. On the 7-day average, we are starting to kind of come back up a little bit here at least. 888, right? We went all the way down to approximately 800 or so exahash on the 7-day, and on the 1-day average we definitely dipped quite a bit here. We dipped all the way down to 672, but we've definitely come back up here since then. So that was a result of all the hot weather that we saw here across the United States. A lot of curtailing happening here in the miners, and I'm sure we'll see that as the other miners report as well going on later on. All right, so there's that. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here on July so far. We're only up 1.69%. Nothing to brag about, but also not too bad. We're actually not in the red here, so we'll take it. I'm hoping for a much better month of July, hoping to be up plus 15% on it by the end of the month here, if not more. And then we'd love to see another great August like we have historically as well. Bitcoin ETF inflows here were good on Thursday, which was the last day that we traded last week because of the holiday of July 4th. IBIT, BlackRock bought in another 224 million. That got us up to a total of 601 million being bought in on Thursday, at least last week. We'll see where that comes in later on this week. We did have one day, which was July 1st, where we were down 342 million overall, but the rest of the time we've been buying, well, not we, but the ETFs for Bitcoin have been buying up Bitcoin here, which is nice to see. All right, some good news stories that we do have here. Bitcoin balance on exchanges hits an all-time low, right? We talked about this a little last week, but it's just continuing to happen here. Supply shock incoming here. So we're seeing that the supply is definitely coming down here. We're, maybe about 2.12 million or so on it, but that's great for us. Bitcoin price is going up. As that continues, price will continue to go up, I believe, as well. On that one. Next here, this is kind of interesting. Breaking, Elon Musk says his new American Party, or America Party, I think he should call it American Party, but America Party will embrace Bitcoin. Fiat is hopeless. So this was part of a tweet here. This was a response to somebody else, right? So Renato Lima asked, will America Party embrace Bitcoin? Elon Musk replied, fiat is hopeless, so yes, right? So he could be also, his companies could be also stacking Bitcoin there quietly. Right? We know that Tesla has Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We don't know about SpaceX, and we don't know about XAI. Or the Boring Company, or what's the other one that he has there? The Neuralink company as well, right? So he's got quite a few companies that he could definitely put some Bitcoin into if he wanted to. We'll see if that's the case, but I don't know if fiat is completely hopeless. Obviously, the big beautiful bill that got passed over the weekend here is going to definitely add to the deficit. I'm not a big fan of that. I think the only way we can solve that is through getting, unfortunately, well, I think it's long overdue, is term limits on the people that are in Congress and in the House and the Senate as well. They should be in there for a maximum of 2 terms, and they should be out. Beyond that, become career politicians. And career politicians get entrenched, and they try to spend as much money as they can. That, unfortunately, is not theirs. It's the American public's money there. And they should be much better stewards of that cash than what we have seen recently. But it's just, I'm not going to get into that soapbox. All right, so there's that information. Other than that, let's take a look at the miners here, how they did last week here against Bitcoin here. And we're also looking at the last 52 weeks, right? How high have the miners come up from their 52-week lows, and where are they from their 52-week highs as well? So this is looking a lot better here recently than what we have seen in the past in the last year to 2 years, where Bitcoin was like number 2 compared to like strategy, right? Now we have quite a few miners that are actually ahead of Bitcoin as far as gains are concerned, which is nice to see. Strategy is still number 1 here in the last 52 weeks. It's up almost 300% there. IREN's up 228. Cypher's up 225%. Core 190%. BitDeer 155. Hut 8 150%. Bitcoin's up 119% from their 52-week lows just recently. Riot's up 96. Cleanspark 89, almost 90 there. Hive 83. Marathon 80. And Bitfarms is 51% right now. So definitely a nice little bounce there even for Bitfarms here. And you can see how far away the miners are and Bitcoin is from their 52-week highs. Obviously, Bitcoin's only 3.5% away roughly. Bitfarms is still way off, 67% from its 52-week highs here. Then you got, who else would be there? Hive, 58%. Followed by probably BitDeer, 49%. BitDeer has definitely come down in price here recently. And then we got Marathon, Cleanspark after that, and everybody else along the way here. IREN's only 9.3% away from its 52-week high, which was probably reached last week when it got pretty high there. And same thing with Core. For last week, when we look at the miners here, they greatly outperformed Bitcoin. Bitcoin's basically flat on the week. It was up just like 1%, roughly, right around there. IREN, 61% up during the week. Cypher, 60%. Core, 52%. Cleanspark up 36% along with Hive. Bitfarms was up 31% along with Hut 8. Riot was up 27%, Marathon 23%, and BitDeer was up 22%. Strategy was only 9%. So the miners are outperforming not only Bitcoin, but strategy as well, at least in the last week, which was nice to see. Because in the past, this was not the case here. So definitely love seeing that. And this is more of what I expected the miners to be doing here. Obviously, some of the ones that have HPCI potential, like IREN and Cypher, have definitely caught a much bigger bounce here. And it might be warranted. Or it might not be warranted. I think it is warranted, especially as they progress in their expansion and everything else. So there's for the weekly here. That looks really good. On the 4 weeks time frame, we got Bitcoin being up 2% here. Everybody else pretty much outperformed here, Bitcoin, except for BitDeer. BitDeer's down 2% from then. Strategy is up 8%, so that even outperformed it. IREN again 73% in the last 4 weeks. Cypher 55, Core 48, Cleanspark 25, Hive 15, Bitfarms 14, Hut 18, and Riot 24, and Marathon up 12, and Strategy up 8. Right? Things definitely changed here a little bit more in 12-week time frame. Bitcoin's up 28% here. Pretty much everybody else has stayed with Bitcoin at least for the most part, or outperformed it quite nicely here. At least, based on what I can tell, at least a 2x roughly, or even more, like a 5x or even close to an 8x here. But Bitcoin's up 28% here. IREN at 199% here in the last 12 weeks. Cypher 150%, Core 155%, Cleanspark 63, Hive 56, Bitfarms 28. Then we got Hut 80%, Riot 72, Marathon 41, BitDeer 73, and Strategy at 35%. So I'm sure you guys are loving this just as much as I am. The performance that we have seen here over the last 12 weeks, we're kind of bottomed out on these guys back in early April, and where we are right now has been a blessing. It hasn't been easy, but it's nice to see these kind of gains that we're seeing right now. And as long as Bitcoin cooperates and goes up with us into higher values of 150,000, 200,000 by the end of the year, these things are going to be rocket ships here potentially in the next 3 to 6 months. We'll see if that's going to be the case here. So I'm loving this. Hopefully you guys are loving this as well. But if you guys are, right, this is not for the faint of heart. If you're in these guys, you need to have a strong stomach, I guess you could say. But if you take profits, there's no shame in taking profits. Profits are profits. If you're in cash, you're in profit, take it. I'm still holding on to these things because I do believe, maybe incorrectly, that they will go up as long as, well, with Bitcoin going up as well, right? So be mindful of that. And here's the table that we've seen here recently. We've had kind of a rough couple weeks here a little bit. We've had 2 weeks that were kind of mostly in the red prior to our last week, and then we had a green week. We had 2 red weeks more or less, and we've had some more green here. So I'm hoping that this changes more into more green weeks happening here for us going forward as well. All right, so there's that. One other thing I want to take a look at with you guys was the MNAV on the miners here right now as it is. So miners market to net asset value based on the HODL that they have here. So this only includes the miners that have a HODL position of it as is. And here's what we got right now as it is. So BitDeer is getting an MNAV of 2.78, Cypher 2.81, right? Cleanspark 1.42, Core is actually negative right there because of the debt that they have. Hive 1.59, Marathon 1.18, Riot 1.26, right? Marathon's not getting the love on the HODL position that they have, which they have over 40, almost 50,000, 49,940. Bitcoin here, we're still waiting on some of the miners to report their operational updates for June. We'll get an update on those HODL positions here. But so far, we've had only who reported? Marathon, Riot, and I think Cypher has reported. We're still waiting on a bunch of these guys to report as well. So hopefully they start doing that tomorrow, and we'll get into all those guys here later on into it as well. All right, but just a quick update on that. And let's get into your guys' Q&A, see what you guys have to say. Questions, anything like that, comments, all of that. We'll get into it here. As always, spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members. Link for that is down in the description. As always, a couple dollars a month, you help support the channel, and I greatly appreciate the support from all the Patreon members, from the YouTube members and all that. Greatly appreciate you guys. Love you all. But let's get into Q&A now. So that's my sales pitch. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to scroll up as always, try to see if I can find any questions. If you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. And let's see what we got here as far as things popping up here. Right. Let's see. Sarmelin says, IREN's about to get a Monster Monday monster deal, that is, I guess. That I'd love to see it, right? So based on the way the stock has been performing, it kind of seems like they have something up their sleeve, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's see. Neville says you're in for a rude awakening in Q4. I would not bet against IREN on that one. I'm not sure what you guys are betting on. You guys are talking about IREN's deals potentially. Let's see. Andre says I sold some IREN Friday and I regret it. I still hold a couple thousand, but hoping for a dip to buy back. Hopefully it will happen. If not, maybe wait until August. I'm sure market will dip sometime then. End of August, September. Yeah, I think we'll probably get a dip. If history repeats itself, at least in Bitcoin sense. But if they get a deal or something like that and they announce it within, July, August timeframe, man, that thing could definitely run. Neville says RFK had the best chance for a third party and threw that away for a seat in Trump's cabinet. We've had other ones. We've had, was it Perot? Russ Perot, I think it was his name, was one of them. There was others that were going for the independent, right? Okay, Neville says, such a shame Musk could have gotten a third party for much cheaper than what he's about to pay for. He's got tons of money as it is. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, right? Because I believe that there's a majority of the people in the United States that are not, hard right, hard left. I think there's a lot of people that are in the middle as well. And I think that's kind of what Musk is possibly going after here. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And maybe there would be giving a little check of balances as far as powers are concerned between Democrats and Republicans. Have a third party in there might be actually a good thing. We'll see. Chris is saying there will be no IREN deals. It is simply pump and dump. Chris, never say never. All it takes is one good news story. That's the way I kind of look at it. Right. Let's see. All right. Hey, so why would you say August is historically good when it's historically bad according to the chart? If you look at the chart here for Bitcoin's historical returns, here it is right there, right? Every year that we've had a bull run, which was 2013, 2017, 2021, if you look at August has been in the green here, right? So 2021, we had a bull run, 18 up in July, up in August as well. 2017, we were up in July, up 65% in August. 2013, we were up 9.6% on July, 30% in August here. So that's why I'm saying that historically in August, we would have on a bull run year like to date, like this year would be, we would see a positive July, positive August, right? If history repeats itself and the trend continues. So that's kind of why I'm saying that. All right, let's go back here. Let's see. Okay. Bang Bang O says, got back to my November highs, had to sell majority of my holdings after watching them go down 70% like we did with the tariffs, so expect miners to okay. Isn't that usually the way the world works? You sell something because you're out on something, and then you see things pumping on you. The Sarmelon says, Cleanspark is one of the top performers. Andre says, I'm thinking about buying some Cleanspark. If IREN keeps running up, I can't chase that. I'd rather wait for a pullback. But Cleanspark is already low compared to IREN valuation and Cleanspark going to 60x hash. Yeah, that's why I own both of them there. Let's see. Bang Bang says, Cleanspark is a phenomenal buy here. In my opinion, they should be close to IREN in efficiency, but no AI love. So that's part of it, right? So the way that they're going to get some love is if Bitcoin continues to go up to 150,000, 200,000, whatever it might be. Remember, there's also going to be a certain point where Bitcoin, if it stays at these levels, potentially if we get an extended cycle, that Bitcoin mining might be actually more profitable than doing HPC-AI, right? So there's always that trade-off. Historically, we've had these cycles in Bitcoin where Bitcoin shoots to the moon and then falls to the ground again. But if we don't get that, you're going to see possibly prolonged periods of time where the miners are profitable, much longer so than we have seen in the past year, which would be also great for the miners that are still pure play miners. All right, Victor's got a question here. I heard that Mara is going to AI. Is that true? Thanks. I've heard something about that as well. This is going back a couple of weeks now that I think Fred was asked a question if they would go into HPC-AI. And I think Fred basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, but that if they get a deal or something like that, that they would definitely not, dismiss it. So, let's see. Victor's got a question here. Do you think Bit Digital will pump hard? It might, right? We'll have to wait and see. I like the fact what they're doing there, right? They're moving the business from HPC-AI to its own thing, which is nice. And then they're going to, well, I'm not a big fan of the Ethereum HODL strategy or the Ethereum treasury management part of it. I wish they would have went into Bitcoin here, but we'll see. Maybe that works out for him. At least this cycle here, Ethereum has not kept up with Bitcoin appreciation, so we'll see if that changes here going forward. That's the only reason why I would not be in favor of them going through Ethereum instead of going with Bitcoin there. Sadie, as always, thank you so much for coming in and hitting the like button. See, Andre says BitDigital not mining Bitcoin anymore. Dump it. Yeah, they're not mining Bitcoin. They're going to be a Ethereum HODL strategy basically, and they're spinning off their white fiber as well. All right. Let's see. Sub, have you looked into BitDeer much? They have seal miners targeting sub 10 joules per terahash, some even 5 to 6 joules per terahash, plus a 2.6 gigabyte pipeline. That could be the next IREN, in my opinion. It is possibility there, but again, they've been doing a lot better this year as far as growth is concerned, and which I talked about last year as well, that a lot of their growth is going to be happening in the second half of 2025 and into 2026 as well. They've also paused their upgrade or build out for Bitcoin mining in Ohio at one of their sites or two of their sites, and they said that they have strong interest from HPCI clients there, so maybe they could get something there. The only questionable thing for me is there's a lot of history in that company with the management there. I'll just leave it at that. They're also Singapore-based. They have some ties possibly to China. I don't know, but that has kind of always scared me a little bit. I guess you could say that best way. Hey, Seb, where do you see Cleanspark price level next gravitating to? Next one, I think, well, let's take a look at Cleanspark here really quick. Where are we at? Cleanspark at 1225 right now as it is. Let's go to screen here. I think, let's see where we got some supports here. I mean, we're way above the 200 SMA, which is nice here. I think our next line might be somewhere around the $14 range potentially. That's kind of where we're going to be going to there. If we hold that and get above that, I can see us going to like 1650, and then obviously we're going up higher beyond that. That's kind of where I would look for it at least. So, all good things as long as it goes up, right? I'd love to see it. All right, what else we got here? Wes Clark said a question. Do you see any of the miners as a Ethereum play? Not sure who has Ethereum HODL. The only one that I know that has Ethereum HODL right now is BitDigital, right? As far as any of the other miners, some of the smaller miners might have a little bit on their stack, but I can't remember who has that. Big one there was, in the past at least, Hive had a huge stack there when they were mining Ethereum before it went to proof of stake. But I think they sold off most of it there. I'm not sure that they have anything left other than a small percentage right now. Let's see, Bang says SBET, BMNR, and BitDigital have Ethereum HODLs. Wes Clark, yeah. BMNR is a new one that came out, right? And that's the one that's got Tom Lee also on the board there. All right. Bit says November 11th, 2024, I had 100,000 day in Cleanspark. Hope it goes above 24 by then. Nice. All right, Red Star. Do you think they're pushing towards BTC being so high we use Satoshis? Satoshis eventually down the road, yes. Bitcoin, I think when it gets to $7 million in valuation, we might be talking about it in Satoshis, right? Instead of saying that a house is 0.1 BTC, we might be saying that it's whatever, what is that going to be? 10 million Satoshis or, right, is my math right on that? Or is it a million Satoshi? I can't remember what that conversion there is. I know there's like 100 million Satoshis per one Bitcoin or something like that, right? Okay, Omar. Based on pure feel, when do you think the bulk of the momentum will occur in BTC price? A month would be nice to throw out there. The bulk of it? Oh my gosh. I mean, we could have a month where we're up 30, 40% without any problems. Which month is that going to be? I have no idea. And I don't really care. The main thing is for us is to continue to go up here in the next 6 months, potentially maybe even longer. But yeah, in the past, I mean, we would have months that were up 40, 60%. All right, Gadfield's got a question. What's the likelihood of CORZ gets a deal this week or at least a decision? With a buyout deal, potentially? Yeah, I don't know. they've been mum about it. So has CoreWeave. And we'll have to wait and see when something does come out. If they come up with a deal, or do they agree on something, or it'll be interesting. Or if there isn't anything to it, right? Somebody's familiar with the situation, talked to a reporter, I guess, and the stock went up because of it. All right. Omar's got a question. Seb, at what point would you stop accumulating Cleanspark? 12 and below was a great accumulation range, but I'm finding it hard to justify as it raises up. Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets... so you have to look at what is your potential of an upside, right? Could it still do a 2x, 3x from here? Could it do more than that? I don't know. So that's kind of where you're weighing it at that point. If you think you can still do at least a 2x on it, then I think it still makes it pretty good buy. Other than that, I would probably hold off. Maybe look at some other ones that are maybe more undervalued, see if those things run up a little bit more. But yeah, it's tough, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Bang Bang says, interesting point I saw in the Genius Act. It is proposed if you mine BTC and hodl it, you will not pay tax until you sell it. If this happens, all the hodl miners get to defer some costs. All right. That's interesting. Yes, if you mine it and hodl it. So, well, you got to... Yeah, I'm not a tax expert on that. I'm not sure how that's going to actually work out. But if it's going to be good, it's going to be good. All right. Hopium Face question. If Mara holds the most Bitcoin goes up, will Mara be the eventual winner? Maybe, right? You would think so with them having 50,000 coins on the stack there. But can they get the love out of everybody else? No, man, they're definitely not performing as well as they did last cycle. That's for sure. And I don't know, maybe if Bitcoin goes up to 200,000, maybe they will, at that point, do really, really well. Right now, they haven't. They're basically barely being valued on their operations as it is right now. It's just all hodl for the most part. Do you think the worst is over for the miner price action or any possible curveballs we see in the future 6 months? The only curveball that we could possibly see is obviously Bitcoin price going down. If Bitcoin price goes down, then the miners will go down as well with it. We could see a correction here, so that's the thing that you got to watch out. I think if Bitcoin goes to 150,000 here, we'll probably see another correction of 20, maybe 30% from there before we continue to go back up. And I'm hoping it's not an extended correction like we've seen here. Well, in the last year, we saw two of them. One when Bitcoin went from 72,000 down to 40-some thousand last year. That lasted about 4 or 5 months. We saw another correction here this year where we went from 109,000 down to 70-some thousand, right? So that was another 30% correction there, but that also took about 4 months or so. So as long as we don't get those things, the miners should do pretty good. But if we get a correction, the miners will actually go down. Well, hopefully not. But like last time, they went down 40, 50, 67%. So be mindful of that. All right. Let's see. BitDeer not being a made in the U.S. may not pump. That is a possibility there. It's done pretty good here. I mean, it's had a nice run up, but it's had a pretty good correction here also recently. Okay. Do you think the floods affect miners in Texas? I'm not sure where the floods are, and hopefully those are nowhere near floodplains or flood valleys. But I don't know. All right, LB question. Realistically, how high can IREN go for now if any AI deal is announced? If an AI deal is announced, it'll depend on the AI deal itself. Will it be similar to what we saw with CoreWeave and Core Scientific, or is it going to be even better? How many megawatts are they putting towards it? That'll all determine it and determine where the price goes at that point. But any deal, I think, as long as it's significant, 200 megawatts plus, will definitely help the stock tremendously here. All right. What is the high to see, do see next high for IREN? IREN right now is in a spot all by itself where it hasn't been since becoming public, basically. So if we look at it here, right, the prior resistance on it was around $15 or so, $15.50 or so. That was the prior resistance. That was the top. So we had two tops on it here going all the way back to where it went public. This was back in 2021, November 2021, right? So this is when it went public. So right now, I think we are in uncharted territory, more or less. We'll have to wait and see where it goes, but it could definitely. I think we're due for a little bit of a pullback because if you look at the weekly, even the daily chart on it, the RSI is getting a little. Well, the weekly could still go up a little bit more, right before we kind of top out here. We came down here. We could see it go up a little bit more here, and then we have a little bit of a correction potentially, unless they report something that is substantive and they get an AI deal. Then the stock continues to go, and we go sideways with the RSI, and the stock continues to go up. But on the daily, you can see it's definitely overextended here on the RSI. Could use a little bit of pullback, a little healthy drawdown, couple, 10, 15, 20% or something like that, and then continue to go back up. That'll be fine. We got to a high of 1854 on Thursday last week, and it definitely pulled back down from there. So we'll see where it goes. Right now we're on uncharted territory. It's hard to tell where it's going to go. I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. Sorry about that. All right. Which miners are still a good buy? There's quite a few that are undervalued. Are they a good buy? That's up to you to determine, right? So you got who's still below from where they really should be. Probably Bitfarms, Hive as well. You could say also possibly Riot, Marathon as well are in that boat. So those are the ones I'd be kind of looking to see. But I think all the miners are still a good buy. If you believe Bitcoin's going to 200,000 by the end of the year, potentially, then all of these guys are still way undervalued from where they probably will be by the end of the year here. So that's just my take on it. All right. SH, Bitfarms trading above $1. I am waiting for the spinoff of the HBCI division so I can get free shares in the new company. Just my opinion. That'd be interesting. They could possibly do that. But the hard part of that is right now, those Pennsylvania sites are still mining Bitcoin there for them. How would you spin that off? Would you just spin that off to be a separate company without any assets? You'd probably have to put those assets into that. I don't know. That'd be interesting, though. All right. Let's see. Drago says BitDigital is making money. Let's go Ethereum. All right. Let's see. Pitt has a question. Do you think cycles are over since institutions accumulation majority of BTC, they won't dump all? That was one of my... Yeah, I do think so. I've been talking about this for now probably, 9 months, maybe 12 months even, since last year. When I started seeing that the cycle is already different, we reached a new all-time high in Bitcoin before the halving event, which never happened before. We're seeing these corrections that are longer, right, and not as large. That's playing out differently than what we've seen in the past. So yeah, I do think that institutions, companies, maybe even countries as well, they're going to hold on to Bitcoin for a lot longer time frame and not be as likely to sell potentially. So that could be the end of our cycles that we have seen in the past. All right. Bang Bang says, if you do the valuation on BitDigital minus their AI revenue, which is getting split off, the valuation makes no sense. Valuation, okay, which is getting split. The valuation. So you're talking about the valuation on the Ethereum hodl that they have, right? No Bitcoin mining going forward potentially. Well, we know they're getting rid of the Bitcoin mining side of things, but it's going to be Ethereum hodl strategy basically, right? Are they getting valued on that properly? And then I don't know. I have to look at that one. Andre's got a question here. How does Soluna have only a 13 million market cap? That is one of the smaller players that is getting into HPCI as well. I could be wrong on this, but I think it's a lot to do with the deals that they're structuring. A lot of the deals that I've seen here, at least in the past, I don't know what they are like right now, but in the past they were partnered with somebody else, right? So I don't know what that percentage was theirs, the partners. I think that's kind of confusing the market there, unless it's really written out, and I haven't really dug into it. But I think that's the only thing I can think of why that one is not being valued nowhere near where possibly should be, I'm guessing. But I don't know the whole details on it. Okay. Drew says, people listen when Tom Lee speaks. Yeah, he's definitely an influential figure here in Bitcoin and down with Ethereum as well. All right. Let's see, BitDigital trading at almost 900 million market cap with only 24 million revenue and less than 100 million Ethereum plus BTC value. Basically, when White Fiber takes away their AI revenue, less than $1. Yeah, last quarter for revenue. Yeah, their white fiber was generating what, close to $100 million a year, I believe, on that. As far as Ethereum, I know they're going to be buying Ethereum to, what are they going to be buying, another $150 million over something like that. So they're definitely getting a premium on that, possibly, right? If they're valued at 900 million. I would agree with you there on that one. But it is doing pretty good here. All right, so that's it. Cut up to all you guys' questions here. We'll call it a day. We'll see where Bitcoin goes tomorrow. And Benjamin's got a question here coming in. I just saw that one pop up. Oh, he redacted it. Okay, never mind. I didn't see the full question. Sorry, Benjamin. Ask me that tomorrow. But yeah, we'll call it a day here. We'll see where things go tomorrow, along with the miners. Bitcoin, where does it go? Do we get any updates from the miners on June production updates? I hope so, because I'm waiting on data. I like data, and I want data. But we'll see where things go. All right? So thank you again, everyone, for coming in, as always. Greatly appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys have a great week. I hope Bitcoin does go to the moon. I hope Ethereum goes to the moon for you guys. I hope the miners go even beyond that. Go to the next galaxy for you guys. I'd love to see that this year for everyone that's hung through this tough time in Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners in the last 2 years or so. But I think it'll be all well worth it in the end. And hopefully that's the case. But we'll see. All right. I bid you guys all farewell. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Love you all. Till then, bye.